Christians either ignore the fourth commandment for some reason or the other. Like they follow all the other nine, but for some reason, the fourth one gets ignored. And if it's not ignored like altogether, some people just don't keep it well. Like they know how to keep it. And I used to be one of those persons. Like I'm in the learning process. But I'll just give you a little bit of my story quickly. I started off in the Sunday church. So for a huge portion of my life, going to church on Sunday was all I knew. But then, by the grace of God, I was introduced to the Sabbath, my family and I, and it has transformed our lives. It has transformed the way how we relate to each other, the way we interact with each other, the way we love on each other. But not only that, it has also changed how we relate to God as well, and how we love God and our relationship with God. And so, definitely, it has been a tremendous blessing in our lives. And we started as a family observing in 2017. And so 2026 now, it's been 9 years, pushing 10 years. But there is still some, I guess, what's the opposite of clarity? Still some cloudiness as it relates to observing the Sabbath, not just in my family, but for Sabbath observers in general, uh, people who have been in the church 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they still don't know how to observe the Sabbath properly, or they just don't observe the Sabbath properly. So that's what this video is going to be about. If you see me looking down, I have my laptop here because I actually wrote some notes. I did my good research, wrote some notes, like went into the verses because I genuinely wanted to know how to keep the Sabbath holy. And it's right there, smack in the middle of the Ten Commandments. It's actually the fourth one. So it and honor your parents are like, the ones in the middle. And the commandment says in Exodus 20, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The first instruction we are ever given is to remember, and not just to remember any day, but to remember the Sabbath day. So many people think they can pick, choose, and refuse which day is going to be the Sabbath day, but God already, in His wisdom, ordained a specific day, right? And so you can't just get up and decide, hey, it's gonna be on a Tuesday, or hey, it's gonna be on a Thursday. You literally have to observe the day that God calls the Sabbath day. Imagine if your birthday was on August 3rd and they celebrated your birthday on October 4th every year. Would that be like pleasing to you? I don't think so. And so the very first way to observe or to keep the Sabbath properly is to actually observe the correct day, right? But let's start there. The Pope in all the way back tried to change the Sabbath day to Sunday, and they actually have it in their like manifesto or their documents that you know we have explicitly changed this day. We know that God said this, but this is what we say, and this is how it's gonna go. And so the Pope changed the day, and that's why so many people worship on Sunday, right? So we remember the Sabbath day because God says so, and we don't pretend like it doesn't exist and follow the other nine commandments to make up for not following the one. Because he who is guilty of breaking one is guilty of breaking all. So we're in Exodus 20, verse 9. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. That is the prerequisite for keeping the Sabbath. A lot of people think they can, chillax Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and then chillax on Sabbath as well. Like, that's not the proper way to observe it. You literally have to go out and work and put in the work if you want to enjoy the maximum blessing of the day, right? You can't be distracted by social media each and every day. can be distracted by all of the distractions that life has to offer and not work the sixth day. And then, so you're resting 6 days and then rest on the seventh day as well. That doesn't make any sense, right? Get up and go to work for the 6 days. Go make an impact. Go make sure your family has food to eat. Make sure you have more than enough to share with the hungry, because the design is that for the 6 days, it should be spent in labor, in honest labor, in preparation for the Sabbath. I heard a young man say one time that even God needed to rest in front of the whole church, mind you. And I know a couple of people gave him the bombastic side eye, including myself, right? But truth be told, God set the perfect example for us. What did he do before resting? He worked for 6 days, right? That's a pattern there. All right, so we're in Exodus 20, verse 10 now. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Nobody is to work. All these people mentioned are to gather in worship, because the Sabbath is a holy convocation. It is a holy gathering, or in other words, a holy meeting up together. This was something I struggled with personally, because I'm like, I could just watch service online, I could just watch service from my phone and just enjoy the day that way. But when I read this, it was like an awakening for me. Like, no, you're not supposed to be in solitude. This is supposed to be a coming together of brothers and sisters, of families, of like minded people to worship the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Did you know that the Sabbath is a memorial of creation? Like, this, the reason we are keeping it is so that we can remember what God did in the beginning. And remembering what God did in the beginning helps us to remember what He did in the middle. He bled and died for us. And it also is reminding us of what He's going to do in the end. He's going to come back and save His children. So another like good way to keep the Sabbath is to ensure that it is a holy convocation. It's not just you, but that you are gathering with other people. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord. This is Leviticus 23, so we're using multiple verses. A holy convocation, ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Yes, you should absolutely gather together to give God praise, right? So we've covered Exodus 9, Exodus 10, Exodus 20, verse 9 and verse 10. When you made the vow to follow Jesus, you entered into a marriage. One of the elements that keep the marriage intact is communication. The Sabbath is like a date night with God for 24 hours. It is to foster the relationship and to help you. It is for you to grow more deeply in love with Him, right? Because He is so in love with you. Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. It is literally a reminder of creation, right? Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So on the Sabbath, you're supposed to focus on things that build relationship and not get distracted by other things that don't. So a lot of people are like, can I play basketball on the Sabbath? Can I play football on the Sabbath? If and my rule of thumb is, if it's going to detract from your relationship with God, then by all means ignore it. But if it's going to bring you closer to God, if it's going to build your relationship with God, that is what you should be focusing on, right? Isaiah 58, verse 13. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thy own ways, nor finding thy own pleasure, nor speaking thy own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord. And I will, there's a promise attached, guys, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father. For the mouth of the Lord had spoken it. So, what are some of the do's and don'ts? A lot of people have like rules surrounding the Sabbath, but it isn't a day of rules. I view it as a day of things that I get to do to build my relationship with the Lord. So, my do's: delight myself in the Lord, worship as a church. That's the one I told you I'm learning. High praise and worship. Like, I'm playing gospel music. I am um, listening to, songs that uplift my spirit and draw me closer to God, right? Studying His Word, but not selfishly. I'm fascinated by the Word of God so that I can share it with you and so that I can share it with other people as well. Feed the homeless. That was one of my all time favorites. I loved going out on a Sabbath day and like giving somebody a hot meal to eat, and they enjoyed it, right? Speak words of healing and life. um, Go out in nature. That's a big one. Get the best physical rest. A lot of people work themselves to the bone on Sabbath, like doing the work of the Lord as well. But it's also important to get physical rest too. Some of the don'ts, right? So don't gossip, don't harbor unforgiveness, don't scroll social media endlessly, right? Mindlessly scrolling. Don't think about anything work related. Don't think about your own needs and how you will supply them. Don't watch the clock counting down the hours, right? The Sabbath is a blessing. It is one of the two institutions of God in the garden, the other one being marriage. Satan tries to attack and counterfeit God's instructions all the time. We have to be vigilant and watchful not to desecrate what God has given us. Because make no mistake, the Sabbath was made for man. It was made for us to enjoy, to take pleasure, and delight in it. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I see you guys on here. Um, Next week, we will talk about the benefits of keeping the Sabbath. Until then, be blessed and stay blessed. And I'm going to look like a senior citizen trying to end this live.